Hello chess friends and welcome to Zarev's chess channel and welcome to the round 6 of the Grand Chess Tour in 2019 in Croatia. So we had a really exciting day, many wins, not so many draws, and it was really beautiful for all of the chess lovers because we had really great games by Magnus Carlsen, by Levon Aronian, by Fabiano Caruana. So I didn't know which game should I publish, and I decided to do this one between Levon Aronian and Sergey Karjakin. For those who have followed my chess channel, maybe more, you all know that I've named my son after Levon Aronian, and in this game I'll show you why. Because maybe Levon Aronian was playing his best chess 5 years or even 10 years ago, and he was really in this 2800 level club. I don't know what happened meanwhile, and now I think Levon Aronian is back to chess again. He plays really dynamic chess, and today we saw this Berlin defense, which is sometimes quite annoying to watch a little bit because it gets too positional. There are not so many tactical possibilities, but today Levon Aronian really crushed the Berlin wall. So it unbelievable game. I really enjoyed it, and of course, and then I decided to publish it. So I wanted to show you again this picture. I met Levon Aronian at the Grand Chess Tour, and I told him that I named my son after him, and he was really surprised. It was a great moment for me, so I'm sorry I'm repeating myself. I published this photo once in this Grand Chess Tour, but it was really such a great moment for me, and here I wanted honor Levon Aronian through this video because it was really a great Ruy Lopez Berlin defense game. So let's see what happened in the game. E4 we have by Levon Aronian. E5, knight on F3, knight on C6, still common theory, bishop on B5, the Ruy Lopez. And now knight on F6 and castling by Aronian. Knight takes on E4, and the common idea, as I mentioned also in the series, is to move D4 to get a fast development and a fast open e-file in order to attack the king. So it's hard here for black to take immediately, so that's why here knight on D6 was played. And now bishop on C6, we have d takes c6, and now d takes e5, knight on f5, and here queen on d8, king takes on d8. And this is now this Berlin defense. So it's still common theory. Both players haven't made mistakes so far. And what are the main ideas? What are the problems? What are the problems for white? So what are the problems for black? So here you see that white has this knight. The most natural square for the knight is the knight on c3, and that's why this defense is called the Berlin defense, because you get restricted by this wall that black has built with his pawns. Here with knight on c3, then you cannot jump on b5, you cannot jump on d5. This knight is out of game with a potential h6 move. The bishop is a little bit well, I don't want to say paralyzed. Basically the best idea is maybe to develop the bishop through the square b2. So I saw many games by Fabiano Caruana. He plays this bishop on b2 idea, and from black's perspective, you have a bishop pair, but it's still not an active one. This bishop is okay, but this bishop is a little bit blocked out. It's hard to get its bishops rolling. But there is this main strategical idea in the Berlin defense. Here is this pawn majority of whites. Here we have a 4-on-3 situation, and one of the basic ideas for white is maybe to trade off all of these pieces, like the knights, like the bishops, maybe even the rooks off the board, because it's easier for us to create a pass pawn situation here. And if you play here the 4-on-3 situation by black, if you play as white correctly with a good pawn, with some good pawn moves, well, it's hard for black to create a pass pawn situation. And Levon Aronian will use in the continuation of the game this idea to create this pawn majority attack, which is one of the best ideas to play against this Berlin defense, because it's still an asymmetrical game. You still have some room to make some progress, but as I said, with the c6 and these bishops, black has built a really nice wall, and it's really hard to break. So let's see how Levon broke this wall. So here h3. It's okay move because with this h3 we're competing a little bit with this bishop. We're restricting the light square bishop's ability to play, and here bishop on e7 was played. Knight on c3 on the natural square, and now knight on h4. Okay, this is an idea. It was played often by Vachier Lagrave. He's famous for this line. But here after knight on h4, bishop takes on h4, f4 was played by Levon Aronian, and here well, Sergey Karjakin made sort of a slightly inaccuracy. Maybe a better move would have been bishop on f5 in order to attack immediately this pawn on c2, but there is this tactical line also. We can go knight on d1, and here after bishop on c2 we can go knight on e3. You have to move the bishop on e4, and now rook on d1 would be the idea. After king on c8, or maybe king on e7 or e8, well then rook on d4 is an interesting idea. If you try, of course, bishop on d5, knight takes, c takes, rook takes d5, and here it's still a simplified position, but white can bring the rook faster into the game. This bishop is a little bit out of game, so slightly advantage maybe here for white. So bishop on d7 was played instead of bishop on f5, and here bishop on d2 played by Aronian. King on c8. Now the main idea is to for black to bring the rook on the d file and at least trade off one of these rooks, because if we trade off these rooks, then you cannot doubling up rooks on the d file. You cannot infiltrate in your opponent's position, maybe on 7th rank or on the 2nd rank. Here bishop on e1 was played by Aronian. Also very good idea to get rid of this bishop pair. If the position gets simplified without the bishops on the board, still we could have maybe knight on e4, then maybe knight on g5 outposts, and also some knight on c5 ideas. That's why Sergey Karjakin is not interested in trading off this bishop pair, and here f5 immediately. So you see, Levon Aronian played immediately on the pawn majority attack, with the preparation, of course, in the next move to play the move g4. Bishop on c5 played by Karjakin, bishop on f2 again with the same idea, and now bishop on b4. And now we have g4. You see, Aronian has made some progress on the king side already. So maybe if you're drawish player here, bishop on c3 after b takes on c3, the position gets more and more simplified, because we have now opposite colored bishops, and we have really simplified position. We have double pawns here on the queen side. Maybe this would be an idea if you're a drawish player. So all of the respect also for Sergey Karjakin, because he didn't go into a drawish line. He played here rook on e8. Now, of course, bishop on e3, bishop on g3, protecting this pawn on e5, and now bishop on c5. King on h2, and now bishop on d4, rook from a to e1, and now b6. Knight on d1, and again maybe with the same idea, bishop on c3 instead of b6, just to simplify the position. Now this bishop on d4 gets a little bit under fire. Here after knight on d1 we have king on b7, and here Sergey Karjakin connected the rooks, but you see, in order to connect the rooks in the Berlin defense, you need many tempos. Here c3 played by Levon Aronian, and here bishop on c5, knight on f2, and now bishop on e7. Again, this bishop on e7 is, well, it's really an inaccuracy played by Sergey Karjakin. Again with the same idea, bishop takes on f2, maybe rook takes on f2. Okay, after c5 maybe e6 can be played, which is the most aggressive line. After f takes e6, here rook on d2 would be an interesting idea. You cannot play rook from a to d8 because bishop on h4 is attacking and you lose the piece or you lose the exchange. So after f takes e6, okay, white has a pass pawn, but it's the position, as I mentioned, is simplified with his opposite color bishops. We can trade off some rooks on the d file and try to grab this pass pawn. So I think in this position it would be a draw. So that's why here knight on f2, bishop on e7, and this was now really Sergey Karjakin's, at least an inaccuracy, because now we have immediately pawn breakthrough with e6. We have f takes e6, f takes e6, bishop on c8, and now you see the bishop is out of game. We have lost the rook connection, and Levon Aronian immediately uses this moment and played the move knight on d3. And it comes with the idea. We have now a very active rook. We have a very active rook on the f file. We have also very active bishop now on this diagonal. So it's a simple idea. What piece needs improvement? That's of course the knight on d3, and now we're aiming some other targets, maybe knight on f4, knight on h5. We can also play knight on d4. So the only piece that needed improvement in this position was the knight on d3. Bishop on f6. Now rook takes on f6, and this is now amazing stuff. Rook takes on f6 with immediate exchange sacrifice, because Levon Aronian sensed here really that these two pieces are a little bit out of game, and that's the main problem. Here after g takes f6, it was really a surprise here. Now of course knight on f4, staying onto this space advantage with this pawn on e6, and now rook on d8. Of course rook on e2, we are not allowing some checks on the second rank, because if you lose another pawn here, it's basically game over. And now rook on d1 played by Karjakin, and you see how paralyzed these pieces are. This bishop cannot go out, this rook cannot go out, so basically Levon Aronian is playing with one piece up, because he has an active knight, active bishop, and active rook. So bishop on h4 with an attack on this very weak pawn. f5 of course is the worst that you can do, because after g takes f5 we have now two connected pass pawns, so you shouldn't do that. That's why Karjakin tried c5 maybe to develop now this bishop at least on this diagonal, or get the king into the defense through the square c6, then d6, and at least try sort of a blockade here on e7. Bishop takes on f6 of course, and now king on c6, and now you see very powerful move which paralyzes again all of the black pieces are really stuck to the defense of this potential promotion on e8. Bishop on d7, that's why it was played, and now g5 fixing the position here, and now we have built sort of a wall, let me express in this way. So now it's really hard to battle for any of these rooks against this setup. After potential a6, we have also possibility to play h4 and again recapture the pawn on g5. So this is now really a fixed position. We have still an active rook, and this knight always can find some good squares. You can jump around wherever you want, so the knight's mobility is perfect here. Bishop on e8, and now you see the knight's mobility. Knight on e6, bishop on h5 put an attack on the rook, but it's not a problem. Rook on f2, bishop on g6, and now h4. Now we're fixing even more. You see Levon Aronian takes it slow now. It's simple positional play. Again, you just in these types of lines you just search for improvements of pieces. So this bishop is okay, because it creates this chain that's basically unbreakable. This rook is always good on the second rank. We can move it here, so we can decide where the best file for the rook is. And of course, as I mentioned, this knight will improve through the game. We're just searching some good squares for the knight. So king on d7, and now knight on f4. You see, with preparation to play a very annoying move h5. Bishop on b1, and now of course a3. It's a simple threat here by Karjakin. Rook on g8, and now knight on g2. Again, we are searching for improvements of the position of the knight. So we are searching now for some better squares. Rook on e8. You see, Karjakin doesn't have good ideas how to make progress here. Maybe the best way is to create here a blockade and at least try somehow to create here a pass pawn situation on the queen side with some pawn moves. But as I mentioned, if white plays it correctly, it's impossible for black to create a pass pawn situation. So here knight on e3, again we are searching for some good squares, rook on d3, and now rook on e2. And here Karjakin makes now the decisive mistake. He plays the move king on e6, and it loses now tempo, because maybe a better idea would have been rook on d6, at least have a compact position here with his rooks, not allowing some pawn moves like g6 or h5 g6 attack this bishop. So at least to have some kind of a counterplay and maybe here to try to push pawns. But with the king on e6 now, it allows Levon Aronian to go into the game with another piece, which has to be improved. And what piece is that? It's the king, of course. We are basically in an endgame, and you have to play with your king. So king on g3. Now the king comes into the attack. Very nice positional play here by Levon Aronian. King on f7, and now king on f4. Simply going forward. We're using now this king as an attacking piece, and some sacrifices of the rook are not good, of course, because again we can create here a pass pawn situation. This knight's activity is perfectly fine. We have some discovered check possibilities, so that's why you should never here give up the rook for this bishop and a pawn. h6 played by Karjakin, and now rook on e1. We have h takes g5, and again h takes g5. The position is still compact for white here. Bishop on a2, and now again an improvement of the knight with the threat, of course, of the fork on e5. That's why rook on h3, and now knight on e5. You see how dangerous now this knight gets. King on e6 again, and now king on g4. Now Levon Aronian has accomplished really compact and coordinated position. All of the pieces are really glued together, which is perfectly fine. This bishop is protecting the knight. The knight is still an active piece. We have an open e-file. The king can now play really freely. Although black has the bishop and two rooks, it's basically impossible here to create some checks and some kind of threats against white's king. Rook on h7, and now knight on f3. We have king on f7, and now king on f5. Here rook on h5 doesn't bring you also anything, because knight on e5 is the threat. If you try to king on g8, then rook on d1 is the threat, with some ideas of rook on d8, and it's game over. It's basically impossible to connect this rooks again. So after king on f5 and king on g8 was played, and now g6 finally with an attack on the rook. The rook is here really endangered. Rook on h5, king on g4, again with just some simple threats to keep black occupied, to keep black busy here. Rook on h6, and now knight on h4, bishop on f7, and now g takes f7. You see, Karjakin was really desperate here. He had to do something. If you try something like bishop on b3, and if you not sacrifice this bishop, well, there is this very annoying stuff here, king on g5, because now the rook is trapped. So you see, Karjakin tried here at least bishop on f7. We have g takes f7, king takes on f7, but now bishop on g5, and it's game over. In this position, Karjakin resigned, because again we have some ideas, rook on d1, rook on d8, and it was really game over here. So great game by Levon Aronian, I think. Great positional play. Let's go back to this sacrifice. Pardon me. I think it was really great moment. So here rook takes on f6, really nice positional sacrifice, paralyzing all of these pieces by black. You see as I said, black was really paralyzed here. Knight on f4, bishop h4, taking another pawn, creating some other pass pawns, and great positional sacrifice by legendary Levon Aronian. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this game. Meanwhile, you can watch my other commented chess games with some other tournaments and more games from this Grand Chess Tour in 2019 in Zagreb. And you can also subscribe to my channel if you'd like the content. Thanks you for watching, guys, and chess is the best, of course.